I'm Olivia Miller, 26, stumbling along the gravel shoulder of Route 9 with my 2-year-old clinging to my chest. Semi-trucks are blasting past us, shaking the ground, and I'm terrified, but I keep walking. Then tires screech. My father's black truck slams into park right in front of me. He jumps out, face pale with rage, looking at the empty road behind me. "Olivia, where is your vehicle?" He shouts over the traffic. I look him in the eye and finally speak the truth. "Anthony took my keys. He says I'm medically unfit to drive. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community." The silence inside my father's truck was heavy, a stark contrast to the roar of the highway we just left. The air conditioning blasted against my face, drying the sweat, but doing nothing for the cold knot in my stomach. Noah had fallen asleep instantly in the car seat, lulled by the vibration of the engine. I looked at his small, peaceful face and felt my hands start to shake. The adrenaline was fading, leaving behind only shame. "How long?" my father asked. He didn't look at me. His eyes were fixed on the road, his hands gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles were white. He wasn't asking as a dad. He was asking as a police chief interviewing a witness. 6 months, I whispered. Since Noah turned 18 months old, he took a sharp breath. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because it didn't look like abuse." "Dad, that's the trick. It didn't start with a lock on the door or a raised fist. It started with a casserole. It started with Susan showing up with dinner and saying, 'You look exhausted, Olivia. Let me take the night shift.' And I was exhausted, so I let her. Then it was Anthony saying, 'Babe, why stress about the bills? I'm an accountant. Let me handle the finances so you can focus on Noah.' And I was stressed, so I thanked him. I looked out the window at the passing trees, watching the world blur. I needed him to understand the mechanics of the trap. It's the boiling frog. Dad, you know the story. If you drop a frog in boiling water, it jumps out. But if you put it in cool water and turn the heat up slowly, it cooks to death before it realizes it's dying. That was my life. The heat went up 1 degree at a time. First, Susan moved into the guest house to help. Then, she was in my kitchen every morning criticizing the nutritional value of the oatmeal I made. Then she was checking my grocery receipts, circling items she thought were wasteful. When I complained, Anthony told me I was being ungrateful. He said I had postpartum anxiety. My father's jaw tightened. "Did a doctor say that?" "Oh, Anthony did." Every time I questioned why he moved our savings into a new account I couldn't access, he said I was being paranoid. Every time I asked why Susan had a key to our bedroom, he said I was being difficult. They made me feel like my brain was broken. Last week I tried to drive to the park and my keys were gone. Anthony said he took them for my own safety because I've been so scattered lately. He said he was protecting me. I looked down at my hands. They were raw from gripping the carrier straps. They checked my phone. Dad, every night, Anthony said he was just making sure I wasn't doom-scrolling, that it was bad for my mental health. But he was reading my text. He was tracking my location. "I stopped calling you because I didn't want you to worry and I didn't want them to know I was cracking. I thought if I just behaved better, if I was just calmer, they would give me my life back." My father pulled the truck onto the shoulder of the road and put it in park. He turned to me and the look in his eyes wasn't anger at me. It was the cold, lethal focus of a man who had hunted predators for 30 years. "That is not help, Olivia," he said, his voice low and terrifyingly steady. "That is a siege. They isolated you. They disarmed you. And then they took you hostage. We're going back." Panic flared in my chest. "No, Dad, please. I can't. We aren't going back to talk," he said, shifting the truck back into gear. "We are going back to get your things. You are leaving that house today, and you are never walking on the side of a highway again." The tires crunched on the pristine gravel driveway. My father's truck looked out of place among the imported sedans and meticulously trimmed hedges. The estate was silent, a fortress of beige stucco and wrought iron. Dad killed the engine, but neither of us moved. Through the windshield I saw them. Anthony and Susan were on the patio. Susan was laughing, holding a glass of white wine, while Anthony scrolled on his tablet. They looked like a picture from a magazine. They looked like people who hadn't just forced a mother and child to walk miles on a highway shoulder. "Stay here," my father said. I ignored him. I unbuckled Noah's car seat, my fingers fumbling with the straps, and pulled him into my arms. I wasn't staying behind. I walked up the driveway behind my father, matching his stride. Susan spotted us first. Her smile didn't drop. It just froze. "Oh, look who's back," she called out, her voice bright and brittle. "And she brought reinforcements. Harold, you're just in time for a glass of Chardonnay." My father walked up the stone steps, his boots heavy on the slate. He didn't look at the wine, he looked at Anthony. "Where are her keys?" he asked. His voice was the same low rumble he used on Suspects, the one that made people stop breathing. Anthony stood up, smoothing his polo shirt. "Harold, let's not be dramatic. We were worried about her. She's been unstable. We took the keys for her own safety. You know how new moms get. The casual misogyny, the practice concern. It made my blood boil. I stepped out from behind my father. "I'm not unstable, Anthony. I'm leaving." Susan laughed a short, sharp bark. "Leaving? Where are you going to go, Olivia? You don't have a job. You don't have a car. You barely have a brain cell left that isn't focused on diapers. We are protecting you. We are keeping this family together because you are clearly incapable of doing it yourself." My father stepped between us. He didn't shout. He didn't posture. He just looked at Susan with a cold, flat stare. "You aren't protecting her. You are holding her hostage. Give her the keys." "No." Anthony crossed his arms, trying to match my father's height, but failing miserably. "Or what, Harold? You going to arrest me? It's my car. It's my house. I make the rules. She wants to leave. She can walk. But she's not taking my son." The air in the yard changed. The birds seemed to stop singing. My father took one step closer to Anthony. "You want to talk about rules? Fine. Let's talk about the law. You are withholding her personal property. You are restricting her movement. And if you try to stop her from leaving with her child, that is unlawful imprisonment." Susan scoffed. "Oh, please. She's hysterical. She needs rest. She needs her passport," my father said, turning to me. "Go inside. Get your documents. Get the baby's things. I'll handle them." I ran past Anthony, dodging his outstretched hand. I heard Susan shouting something about trespassing, about calling the police, but my father's voice cut through it all. "Go ahead, Susan. Call them. I'd love to explain the situation to my former colleagues." I raced up the stairs, my heart pounding against my ribs. The house felt different now. Cold, alien. It wasn't my home. It was a crime scene. I tore open the closet door, my hands moving with a frantic, clumsy speed. I didn't fold anything. I shoved clothes into the duffel bag. Noah's onesies, my jeans, anything I could grab. My breath hitched in my throat, a jagged rhythm of panic. My father stood in the doorway, his back to me, watching the hall. He was a statue, a barrier between me and the people who had slowly dismantled my life. I stopped for a second, clutching Noah's favorite blanket. "Dad," I whispered. He didn't turn around. His shoulders were rigid. "I saw it then 6 months ago," he said, his voice rough with a pain I hadn't expected. "The Sunday dinner when you didn't laugh once. The way you looked at Anthony before you answered a simple question. I saw the light going out in your eyes, Olivia." I froze. He knew. I told myself it wasn't my place. He continued, his voice cracking. "I told myself marriage is hard, that I shouldn't interfere, that I was helping by giving you space. I thought I was respecting your boundaries, but I wasn't. I was leaving you behind enemy lines without a weapon. I'm so sorry." The guilt in his voice was heavy, a physical thing. It was the silent regret of the watchman who fell asleep while the castle was breached. I walked over and put a hand on his arm. "You're here now," I said. "But Dad, you need to know something. I didn't stay because I was weak." He turned to look at me, his eyes searching mine. "I stayed because I was terrified that if I left without a plan, they would take Noah." I pulled a hidden folder from under the mattress, the one place Susan never checked because she was too busy inspecting the dust on the baseboards. I opened it. Inside were photos of Anani's bank statements I'd snapped when he left his laptop open. Screenshots of texts between him and Susan discussing how to manage me. "I wasn't just surviving, Dad," I said, my voice steadying. "I was gathering ammunition. It's the invisible chain of the survivor. You don't yank against the chain because it just chokes you harder. You wait. You pick the lock while they're sleeping. I was waiting for the moment I could leave with Noah and never have to look back. Today was that moment. My father looked at the folder, then at me. He didn't see a victim anymore. He saw his daughter. "Let's go," he said. We walked out of the bedroom. Anthony was at the bottom of the stairs, looking up at us with a mix of fury and disbelief. Susan was behind him, her phone in her hand. "You can't take him," she shrieked, pointing at Noah in my arms. "That is kidnapping. I have the police on the line right now." My father didn't even slow down. He descended the stairs step by heavy step, forcing Anthony to back up. "It is not kidnapping for a mother to travel with her child, Susan," my father said, his voice projecting with the authority of a man who knew every statute by heart. "But preventing a person from leaving a premises, that is unlawful restraint. And if you lie to a 911 dispatcher about a custody dispute to incite a police response, that is filing a false report. Do you want me to spell out the sentencing guidelines for you?" Susan's mouth snapped shut. Her thumb hovered over her phone screen, trembling. I walked past them. I didn't look at Anthony. I didn't look at the kitchen where I'd cried over burnt toast. I walked out the front door into the blinding afternoon sun. The air tasted different out here. Tasted like oxygen. The drive to my father's house felt like the first real breath I'd taken in a year. The silence wasn't empty. It was safe. Noah babbled in the back seat, pointing at the passing trees, oblivious to the fact that his mother had just burned down her life to save his. When we pulled into Dad's driveway, I expected relief. Instead, my brain switched into overdrive. The adrenaline crash was brutal, leaving me shaky and nauseous. "We need to check everything," I said, dumping the duffel bag on Dad's kitchen table. My father was already on the phone with his lawyer, but he nodded at me. "Check what?" "The money, the documents, everything." I spread the papers out. I'd managed to grab the file folder from Anani's home office while Dad was blocking the stairs. My hands trembled as I opened it. Bank statements, loan agreements, title documents. It took 10 minutes to realize the extent of the damage. Dad hung up the phone and walked over. "What did you find?" I stared at the paper in my hand, the numbers blurring. "My car," I whispered. "The SUV you bought me when Noah was born." "Yeah, it's gone. Anthony sold it 3 weeks ago to a dealership in the next county. The bill of sale was right there. Dated the day after he took my keys. $12,000. My father's face went stoic. A mask of controlled rage. He sold a gift given to his wife. He didn't just sell it. "Dad, look at this." I pushed a bank transfer receipt toward him. He used the money to pay off a credit card, but the card isn't in his name. It's in Susan's. Dad picked up the paper. "Susan's gambling debt or a failed business venture. Does it matter? They stole my car to pay her bills." But that wasn't the worst of it. I dug deeper into the file, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. There was a loan document from a private lender. $40,000. The borrower listed was Olivia Miller. "I didn't sign this," I said, my voice rising in panic. "Dad, look at the signature. Looks like Anthony trying to write like you." Dad finished. I felt the room spin. He took out a $40,000 loan in my name and the educational trust fund. The $56,000 my grandmother left me. I logged into the banking app on my phone, my fingers slipping on the screen. Incorrect password. I tried again. Locked out. I called the automated number, punching in my social security number. "The balance of your account ending in $44.92 is $0. I dropped the phone. They had taken everything, the car, the trust fund, my credit. It wasn't control anymore. It was a deliberate attempt to bankrupt me, to trap me with no way out. My father studied the documents, the forged loan, the car sale, the transfers. His expression hardened. "This isn't a marriage issue," he said. "This is felony fraud." When Anthony and Susan showed up, shouting and threatening custody, I opened the door calmly and handed him the envelope. Inside was the proof, loan documents, bank records, the forged signature. His confidence collapsed as he read. "You stole $56,000. I said. "That's not a marriage. That's a crime." I gave them a choice. Return the money by morning or the file goes to the district attorney. They left in panic, exposed and powerless. 3 months later, I locked the door of my own apartment. Small, quiet, chosen by me. My bank balance was modest, but it was mine. Anthony was facing charges. I was rebuilding my life. I wasn't grateful for the cage anymore.